Greetings and welcome to the monthly briefing by the Board of Directors of GemSpace Group of Company featuring the Marketing Department and the Product Division, which was hosted on Monday, October 27th of 2025. This version of the presentation is translated into English on behalf of all the original speakers. Valery Ostrikov, member of the Board of Directors, speaking. Greetings, dear colleagues, partners, and friends, and today is yet another monthly briefing conference featuring our marketing and product departments discussing their monthly reports on the work conducted thus far. As you may know, this year our products are making major leaps ahead, and our marketing division is hard at work promoting them all across the world, especially with the fourth quarter of 2025 inching closer to an end, as all of our teams are striving to make the biggest technological leaps forward. Today, we are excited for our marketing officers to present the team's latest scope of work and their accomplishments. Thus, without any further ado, please welcome Alexey Zaitsev, head of the B2C direction now. Alexey Zaitsev speaking. Greetings, dear colleagues and friends, and welcome to today's presentation, during which we will be discussing our updates with metrics and the newest releases of our digital products. Our development is progressing, and everything is going well on our end. There are a lot of news to cover today regarding our B2B and B2C products, so let's get right ahead. Today, I will share news about marketing and how our clients are using the application, our efforts to make the application more advanced and appealing for our users and clients. We will also cover the current state of the mini apps, as well as the head of our B2B direction will continue after me discussing Gem Team and its ongoing development. First and foremost, we have impressive numbers and we do continue to grow. The daily number of users has increased compared to the beginning of summer by 290%. Moreover, users making calls through our messenger, an outstanding 1,850% increase since the beginning of August. In addition to calls, users also send messages, which is number 2 most used feature of the application today, with an incredible 960% increase. With every new wave of blocking foreign applications, more and more users join our GemSpace. As with every new wave of news covering the latest blocks, we see them reflected in the new incoming waves accordingly. We are seeing significant growth in new users and new clients. And if at some point more applications are blocked abroad, we will see a very large influx of new organic users thereafter, which of course makes us very excited. And here are some details about this growth. Russia and Western Europe continue to install GemSpace, while Russian Federation maintains a leading position in this regard due to the reason covered previously. Moreover, a rather remarkable fact that 25% of our application users have English as their system language, meaning it is their native system language. Nearly 19% have set German as their language in GemSpace, and there's also a significant portion using Spanish and Arabic languages, but the majority, 52% to be exact, use Russian as the language for their user interface. According to additional details, the share of iOS users remains stable at approximately around 15%, occasionally reaching 17 and even 18%. Now this is very favorable for us in our current situation. These users have expensive devices from the Pro Max and Pro series to others, partly because there is a good organic traffic from iOS users which are known to be high monetization category of users. About half of them are Russians, followed by Germany, the United States, the Netherlands, Ukraine, Belarus, and neighboring countries around Russia from Western and Eastern Europe. This is also encouraging, as we aim to expand not only in one country, but across multiple countries, allowing us to grow our audience significantly. This allows segmentation of different geographical areas and, ultimately, improves the foundation for monetization services within GemSpace, as well as in our mini apps that we are also developing and continue to work on. Moreover, Along with promising growth statistics, the distribution of voice calls is also changing. The number of users who make 1 or 2 calls is decreasing, while the number of users making 6, 10, 11, or more calls is increasing. This is positive because it shows that users are returning and actively using the product, which of course lays the foundation for further product monetization. Perhaps even more exciting is the retention numbers that do speak for themselves. We are seeing a significant growth of user retention numbers compared to August statistics. In terms of the marketing news, we are working on reducing costs related to OTP SMS messages, which, as you know, are very expensive and are being currently optimized. Previously, we mentioned that we implemented a voice call system that provides users with their entry codes. Now, we are developing a similar solution that will operate across all countries worldwide, including Russian Federation, which will have a very positive impact on the product's unit economics by lowering expenses. And of course, with monetization and low expenses, profits will increase accordingly. Moreover, our team is also working on providing alternative SMS and calling methods. Expect a release in the App Store in the coming days, and in it we integrated the WhatsApp API, enabling users to receive a login code for our GemSpace there. Now this method is very cost effective and significantly is cheaper than sending OTP SMS messages. Considering this, we are also exploring an even cheaper option than WhatsApp. The cost through Telegram is just 1 cent, which is very, very advantageous and helps maximize product profitability. In fact, besides WhatsApp and Telegram, in case they get completely shut down in Russia or in any other region of the world, we of course have voice calls with code deliveries, yet another method proving resilient and continuous operation for GemSpace. Moreover, in various countries around the world, implementations of voice call delivery and code delivery methods for login will take place. And yet another notion that I wanted to revisit today and explain because it relates to the work that we conduct to reduce expenses. This is perhaps the kind of invisible work that we are doing that is not directly obvious to an end user. However, this system runs behind the scenes, invisible to modern GemSpace users, but nonetheless, it is highly important. I wanted to share with you that we are gradually shifting away from Google's expensive technological services towards alternative sources of similar solutions that are several times, even up to 3 to 5 times cheaper than compared to Google. We are doing this to improve the economics of our products and to increase their profitability, but also, of course, to improve system performance. When millions of users simultaneously start making calls, sending messages, making payments, playing games, meeting new people and engaging with them, communicating, and much more, it all puts a significant load on the system. We are currently designing technological services to support millions of users' operations effectively at once. Even with tens of millions of users using GemSpace at the same time, so that the messages are delivered, calls are uninterrupted and fluid, games don't freeze, and so much more. This behind-the-scenes work goes unnoticed for now. Yet, it enables the product to reach a new level, one that operates globally and ensures that all services run smoothly and reliably. And yet another aspect of our behind-the-scenes work is combating internet bots that attempt to request OTP SMS messages from us. We are actively tackling this issue, and we will be enhancing our anti-fraud protection algorithms to ensure that users of the mobile messenger can register smoothly without having to contact support in order to whitelist their phone numbers. And some pleasant news as well. Based on requests from our users, we are adding ringtones to the application so that users can choose their ringtones for calls, on any notifications, and even upload their own ringtones, making the use of GemSpace even more enjoyable. Some extra conveniences also include the implementation of the ability to dial a phone number to call, which enhances daily usability. Naturally, This will ultimately affect usage frequency, specifically the number of users who make calls, creating opportunities for indexing and additional product monetization. Of course, we are continuing to develop the mini app platform. GemSol, GemPay are in progress. For GemPay, we are currently onboarding payment gateway systems for both Russian and international users of GemSpace, so that the wallet can function properly for all of its users. And as for GemSol, we have completed our research and are now restructuring some of our own channels in the application to support continuous organic growth in it. In other exciting news, we are further expanding our channels of presence for GemSpace. Thus, our application is also now available on RU Store. This gives great news for the Russian audience and will also increase the number of users in Russia to further support the growth rates we are experiencing in the region today. Moving on, I would also like to address some of the questions that we received. Of course, regarding operations in Indonesia, we are creating additional channels within GemSpace that will be interesting to our Indonesian users, where we plan to share information about the upcoming events and so much more. We are also working on meetings and activities to ensure that new users in Indonesia are highly engaged with GemSol and continue to use it frequently, including its paid subscription features. Recently, there have been issues with registration in GemSpace. We need to have your subscriber number to the whitelist through support service to be added manually. Now, this complicates the registration process and not everyone completes it. Will registration be made easier, and when? And what is the reason for this? And are there any alternative, simpler ways to register in GemSpace? As I've talked about this from just earlier, we are working on improving our anti-fraud system regarding OTP SMS registration messages. By delivering messages through WhatsApp, we can reduce the use of SMS and leverage other systems available. This, without a doubt, makes it easier for users to access GemSpace and use it daily for those users, but also at the same time decreases the likeness of OTP fraud scenarios significantly. In regards to the crypto wallet on GemSpace, right now we are actively working on multiple fronts. A crypto wallet is not just about programming, but is also a complex organizational task involving compliance with payment systems, ensuring that they help with payment acceptance, processing both fiat wallets and crypto wallets. The situation varies both in Russia and in all the other countries around the world. And as we anticipated, we expect to complete the compliance process by the end of this year, and meanwhile, the analysts are already defining our requirements for the wallet's creation. Thus, we are anticipating for this work to begin full force in the first quarter of 2026. Whereas on this note, I would like to thank you for your time thus far, as I am now passing the word to the head of our B2B product department, Kirill Yudachev, who will continue by discussing our developments in that regard. Kirill Yudachev speaking. Greetings everyone, and welcome back to our regular monthly meetings where we discuss the B2B products and our team's accomplishments for the past month. As it's been quite a while since we last met, I've gathered some important updates and news that I am very eager to share with you today. When preparing for the presentation, I decided that we should highlight the main features of GemTeam to date. In general, I ended up making a single slide with the main features depicted here. Now these include related functions and message handling features, including group calls and personalization. Additionally, there are such functions that employees using GemTeam in an organization will need in everyday work, as shown here. Allow me to repeat once more. This is just a small portion of what our product can truly do, but I will move on to discussing the new features that have been implemented since we last met. Thus, we have two main components. One that enhances convenience and another that strengthens security. Since we are a secure platform focused on keeping our clients' operations safe and continuous, we always make sure to include features that improve the security of our corporate solution while still maintaining user-friendly convenience today. So, to date, we have added user-friendly features that allow connecting to a single call from multiple devices at once. For example, you can use one device to share materials in a specific format while using another device to share your screen, view images, or stream the audio. We also added backgrounds for when streaming video from a camera, ensuring that meetings remain just as corporate and professional and formal even in the most unusual locations. Also, we implemented the new listener mode. In this mode, a participant may not give access to the camera or their microphone, maintaining full privacy, but can still listen to what is happening in the meeting, a function that ensures even more security. And moreover, we have the option to select which company employees are permitted to work on GEM Team. This is a very important feature that protects us from potential issues. As an example, the situation that occurred on Signal Messenger a few months back, when people unrelated to the conversation topic were added to a highly important chat. To prevent this from happening, we now have the ability to upload a list of company employees who will be working on various projects. We have also updated the authentication mechanism, which is yet another important improvement. And here, we protect our clients' data, like their login and password, including how this information is transmitted over open systems and how it reaches the databases, securing that every channel that is involved. We also worked on the concept of secret chats. Now, this is a sneak peek of what they will look like, but we definitely need to add an authorization feature for the convenience of our clients. We can reset the password directly within the device, which allows changing temporary passwords and authorizing through a single account. This process applies, for instance, when a company has multiple systems, but the user accesses them all with just one network account. This is actually the topic that we really wanted to showcase today. So, what exactly are secure chats on GEM Team? This feature allows us to enhance the security level of communications between employees. But why is it necessary? When discussing critically important business matters such as an anti-crisis plan, merger and acquisition issues, or even topics like planning of a New Year's corporate party, which of course are all extremely important aspects of corporate culture, such data must be protected, and moreover, protected with additional measures in place. We protect not only the transport layer, that is, just like our zeros and ones, our messages travel through the system, but we also protect the messages themselves. In other words, the messages are encrypted as well. So, if someone wants to read these messages and is not part of the protected chat, they simply won't be able to. They would just see a set of letters and numbers that absolutely have no correlation and mean nothing. Only individuals who are a part of this chat will be able to read these messages, understand their meaning, and use the information in their work. The additional features we will introduce will initially be available only in secret chats. Now, these features might somewhat reduce the convenience of our platform to an extent, but they offer extra protection. As you know, security and convenience are always in balance, and our team continuously works to find the optimal balance between protecting and making our product easy to use. Now, we are adding a feature to our secure chat, a thematic history with automatically timed archiving. This feature hides notifications of new messages being sent when the device is locked, ensuring that no one can read them even in that locked state. Furthermore, in this secret chat, the message history is automatically deleted after an employee leaves the chat or is removed by the administrator. The person has no connection to it, so they are not allowed to access it. There is no need for them to read the information discussed in that particular chat. There are also protections against forwarding messages into regular chats from those secure chats, ensuring that all information inside remains confidential. Additionally, there is no screenshot protection in the secure chat, and it's implemented at all times. That offers extra safeguards for the information. So these features and many others are coming to GEM Team's secure chats. But that is not all the best news for today. Our teams understand that our B2B and B2C products should be synchronized, and certain functions and features which both products need can be implemented once the product team work across both platforms. Thus, we are starting to pilot a technology in secure features that will enable us to exchange technologies between B2B and B2C platforms respectively. Directly after testing this technology, secret chats and many other features will also become available on GEM Space, our B2C product. Moving on, I would like to briefly cover the conferences that we continuously participate in. Just last week, Michael Jordan, the head of our business development team headquartered in Qatar, took part in a major conference in Doha covering the latest digital technologies and, in part, artificial intelligence. Mr. Jordan participated as a moderator, and it is great and exciting that we are featured at events of this caliber. You can see our GemSoft logo on the back as he moderated a very extensive panel discussion. And of course, we were well prepared for this conference, as we had extensive materials on GemSoft as the company, GEM Team as the in-demand B2B product, and GEM Space, our B2C application providing effective information for attendees to get even closer acquainted with us and our current offerings. So on this note, these are all the productive results from the last month as we keep accelerating onwards. We would like to thank you very much for your time this time, as we will see each other next month. And on this note, I would like to pass the word to Valery Ostrikov, the member of the Board of Directors of GemSpace Group of Companies, to continue our conference today. Valery Ostrikov, member of the Board of Directors, speaking. Greetings, dear colleagues and friends, and first and foremost, allow us to extend a major gratitude to the marketing and product teams for their positive, continuous news. Whereas, let's continue our briefing conference now, as we have quite a few questions to answer. Will we be able to receive income from the sale of licenses before the new year? It was stated that many licenses would be sold by the end of the year. Why are there no more sales? Firstly, selling licenses is a very meticulous process, and since it involves large amounts of money, the preparatory work is done very, very carefully. Mr. Jordan discussed this process and progress as well as its updates on it discussing during VIP Club 5000. Importantly, our efforts are not limited just to the GCC region, as we are working in this regard in several countries simultaneously. We are also applying efforts in this regard and trying to make it happen, anticipating that we will be able to make some license and sales prior to the new year in other regions of the world. Kindly advise when it will be possible to withdraw the funds from the sale of first license. Will the process of withdrawing the funds be as long for the sale of subsequent licenses? Will it be possible in the future to make transfers from a dividend account to another user's business center account? Shareholders have already withdrawn their funds in different ways. Some bought more shares and some paid for technical support. However, as I am repeating once again, Class C shares will be issued separately in a separate cell shortly, and accordingly, doing so will provide the ability to withdraw these shareholder dividend funds. Transfer funds from the dividend account to the business center account can only be done to your own account. Previously, it was stated that the signing of license agreements in Qatar was postponed because the Qatari partners suggested making demo versions first, testing the platform, and then Invest Qatar wanted to purchase 3 licenses instead of 1 as planned last year. 6 months have passed since the demo version was demonstrated at the exhibition. Are there any agreements on the purchase of licenses, or has InvestQatar refused? That is correct. We do implement platform demos, and clients test the platform first. Please note, we continue negotiations with InvestQatar as they are requesting specific clarifications related to deployment on their on-prem servers. Our technical specialists are directly involved in this process, so we really hope that licensing contracts will be executed in time to depict them broadly during Web Summit Qatar in February of 2026. And of course, we will keep you informed about all the positive developments in this and other regards. During the VIP Club 5000 meeting, it was announced that several MOUs had been signed in Qatar and that all buyers were interested. But we are just waiting for some kind of permission. What permission? We have already received permission from the Ministry of Digital Development, Communications and Mass Media, so what permission are we talking about? And why are we learning about the need for permissions at the point of sale rather than at the time of market entry? First of all, these notions are connected to the permission system, which they themselves don't have clearly defined in their legislation. We dealt with this more closely after the MOUs were signed and when these very large clients started approaching us as well. Essentially, permission from the Ministry of Communication and IT is not officially documented, but all our clients state that Gemsoft needs to obtain certain documents from MCIT. We are currently in the process of obtaining the aforementioned documentation in question with MCIT because the process involves direct interaction with government and quasi-government structures. Greetings, dear Board of Directors. Are the Class C shares currently shown on the counter in the Business Center the last ones, or will there be more? We have Class C shares. These are the shares that are not part of the Class A share cell. Rather, they are only intended for the direction that provides dividends from Gem Team license sales. Thus, the current pool of Class C shares that were issued are intended strictly for the work in the GCC region. All the funds received as part of selling Class C shares are directed towards financing continuous operation in the region. When new regions open, we will evaluate our costs and then return to discussing the matter of Class C shares. For now, we are working in the GCC region and continuing to sell Class C shares until we achieve a big sale that will make the project self-sufficient. There is currently a trend whereby Russian banks are increasingly closing themselves off from currency transfers, with most banks closing the possibility of receiving transfers from abroad in USD and Euro. At the moment, does the Board of Directors have a plan to get out of this situation in the event of the sale of GemSpace? Since it is unclear whether we will be able to receive anything at all in the current situation. Investors are afraid that banks in Russia will not give them their money after the sale. There are now many restrictions on receiving funds from foreign assets, so how can money be withdrawn from the bank after the sale if it was not received in Russia? Yes, exactly. We always have the plan. One could say money is like water. It always finds a way to flow through. So, if dollar happens to be unavailable, there are other currencies available at our disposal. There are various types of cryptocurrencies as well. In general, we will always find a way out of whatever situation arises as we remain completely calm about the current circumstances. At the moment, people are working. There are export and import operations, including companies that are under strict sanctions by the US Treasury. And there are always ways and options on how to manage money. So we wish to emphasize once more that we have various options at our disposal. My question concerns the upcoming audit. It was previously stated that in order to save money, it would be reasonable to conduct it once 50 million users are reached and many applications are implemented. Is there already a potential buyer, and is the audit necessary for negotiations? Evaluation is needed for negotiations. We always need it, as first and foremost because it is important for us to demonstrate that the value of the product continues to keep increasing. That is why a document is needed to confirm that the funds that were spent on development during this time were fully justifying itself, that the application's costs are rising and its functionality is expanding, as long as its value is also growing. It is important that this is legally documented by completely independent companies who value their reputation and auditing licenses operating within the limits of their authorities. Is there a possibility that our application will also be banned in Russia? In Russia, they ban those services that do not transmit data of Russian citizens using any messenger or digital platform. According to the laws of the Russian Federation, any digital platform must store user data within Russia. We are prepared to store user data inside the Russian Federation, and otherwise there are no prerequisites for GemSpace being banned there. Will it be possible to receive dividends on Class C shares to a cryptocurrency wallet in USDT, which we will have in the application as well? Absolutely yes. This is one of the options available to us, and one of the solutions we've been asked about before, and it allows addressing some of the issues receiving funds. So let's move on now, as first of all, based on the questions that individuals have been asking, many wondered, will we be able to accomplish what we've set out to do? And we can assure you that no one grants permission to success to anyone. It comes from within, inside a person's own motivation. The most important thing is to choose the right path, because there is always an inner drive necessary. For example, growing a palm tree in Antarctica. That is possible only if you have what it takes. If you have the correct path and a so-called roadmap, which is your personal guide, then everything depends on your inner motivation from there. And this inner motivation must be very strong, because otherwise those who doubt themselves will not succeed. When someone overthinks, doubts, and ruminates or nothing, he or she is unsuccessful and tries to pass the responsibility of this unsuccess onto others. So that is a road to nowhere. This isn't typical for us, because we know where we are headed and how we are moving forward. Something that time and economic progress clearly demonstrate. What we are building together with you is something that is truly in demand, and its value continues to grow despite the economic challenges and other issues in the world today. So in other words, we have a roadmap, and our actions are guided within its framework. This is the best remedy for depression, insecurity, and nervousness, because it keeps you too busy to think or look around. We are working towards our goal and constantly update you on a weekly basis regarding its progress. This also gives us internal confidence because we provide all of our data to an office composed of licensed appraisers for our audits in the European Union, as they independently analyze everything using their own methodologies, and through that process we gain internal confirmation and assurance that our product is of value and is of demand today. Whereas on this note, I would like to now thank you for your time thus far, as I'm now passing the word to Alexander Kachinovsky, the member of the board of directors of GemSpace Group of Companies, who will finalize our conference today. Alexander Kachinovsky speaking. Dear friends, let's now finalize our highly informative presentation today with the remainder of the questions for the board of directors and current promotional updates. But first, we had two events that took place in Qatar just last week of equal and crucial importance for Gemsoft's growth and development in the GCC region. Both these events presented and shared some very interesting facts. It is important to understand that what we are selling is not a simple product that can be put on a shelf and sold to hundreds of entities in one day. In reality, we are selling a corporate product, a highly specialized product related to the core security of any company and entity that touches on some fundamental values of the company. Products like these aren't usually bought right away. First of all, because as you may know, our product is mainly designed for medium and large companies with thousands, 5,000, or even 50,000 employees. They have a complicated decision-making systems, with many departments involved and the board of directors that makes approvals. Basically, everything is progressing on a slow basis. But the second point to understand is that countries of the GCC region have a very specific difference compared to Europe, America, or Russia in terms of how business is done. People don't simply purchase products immediately after a conversation, a handshake, and agreeing on the price. Instead, all business partnerships in the GCC region insist on establishing trust from the very beginning, meaning multiple meetings before the contract is initiated, and they make this a requirement. Thus, we opened our permanent representation in Qatar starting September 1st. In fact, not even 2 months have passed since then, and yet this work involves continuous effort, ongoing acquaintance, and closer understanding, including familiarity with the company's history and the regulatory framework that all companies consider when making their decisions. This major task will definitely be completed, and it will end with a breakthrough, as once we obtain the second, third, and fifth licenses, many more will follow, but achieving this requires dedicated effort, as this is what we do. And let's now move on to answering the questions for the board of directors. The investment fund has a total of 40 million shares. Are Class C shares, 3 million, included in this number? Some members of the Presidential Council now interpret that Class C shares are not included in this number. Kindly provide clarification. Currently, we officially have 2 types of shares, including 40 million Class A shares in cell number 1, whereas all shareholders receive their certificates of ownership accordingly for GemSpace B2C product. And the second cell contains 3 million Class C shares for Gem Team B2B direction, of which 1.5 million are meant for shareholders, and the other 1.5 million are for the project's administration. Now, this cell is currently being registered by the officials, and merging these 2 cells is not possible for a simple reason. These shares serve different purposes as the 2 projects have a different economic foundation. Class A shares are tied to our main product, GemSpace, while Class C shares are associated with the B2B product for selling licenses and issuing dividends to Class C shareholders respectively. Therefore, these shares are legally and physically are separate, and they cannot be combined into a single cell because they serve different economic foundations. Is there a charter governing the activities and organization of the financial company whose shares we own? Was the decision to create Class C shares and Class D shares based on this charter? Firstly, the 3D Investment Fund is not a company. It is an investment fund that has extremely strict licensing procedures to undergo in order to obtain its operational licenses. The investment fund not only has its articles of association and constitution, but also hundreds of legal documents, including resolutions, decrees, and more. In other words, every small action made in the fund is covered by its own document, which the directors are constantly signing. Therefore, it is not simply a matter of someone creating a financial company and declaring it a financial company and doing whatever it wants. Instead, we worked on creating and establishing this fund for 1.5 years, supplying all the necessary documentation, showing and outlining our projects, strategy, profitability tactics, and so much more. This was seriously a major effort that included collecting personal documentation of all the directors and so much more. That is why no registration or official action could be done without the authorities and the proper paperwork in place. The links are also provided accordingly on the slide to view a separate section with all the aforementioned documents. What are protected share cells that we use in the legal structure? How does this affect the purchase and sale of shares? This is the same exact question relating to the division of Class A shares and Class C shares. Presented here is a full extract from the constitutional document, more precisely the laws in Mauritius regarding investment funds. Allow me to explain where the protected cell company concept originated. This term refers to a type of fund or company structured with protected cells. Such terminology is commonly used in Mauritius and other international jurisdictions for structuring investment funds, insurance companies, and investment products. These so-called protected cells are an integral part of these types of funds. Each cell is not legally a separate company. This is an important distinction. It doesn't exist as a separate entity holding shares. Its assets and liabilities are not separate from those of other cells. In the case with our fund, this structure is used to separate private investment strategies or portfolios within a single legal entity. This simplifies administration and licensing and also protects investors by ensuring the losses in one portfolio, perhaps, do not impact the others. And I hope that now you understand the rationale behind our decision to split to Class C and Class A shares. For example, an investor buys only Class A share in the 3D investment fund. He has no relation to the assets of Class B or Cell C. If he sells his shares, the transaction concerns only Cell A and not the entire fund's assets. The investor buys shares in a specific cell, and his funds are credited to the assets of that particular cell. And during the time of sale, the investor sells or redeems their shares for that specific cell. The share price is determined based on the assets and liabilities of the relevant cell, and there is no cross liability between cells, which is important to note. So we hope that this provides you with a very comprehensive explanation of what a cell is and why we chose this cellular system. It allows for independent behavior and income generation from different types of shares in separate cells, ensuring that there is no collective responsibility. During one of the meetings, it was stated that after the sale of the application, Class C shares would need to be returned to the fund in exchange for investment income from the sale, except for VIP Class 5000 shareholders. Why are we being told that Class C shares are a long-term passive income? Allow me to repeat once more. There are Class C shares representing long-term passive income. It means that you have bought shares which you own, and from these shares, income regularly comes in as licenses are sold in the form of dividends. You manage your shares without losing them. As life and experience show, when business owners are close to profiting from the sale of their business, the temptation to keep more of the profits for themselves comes to the fore. And the founders may issue more shares just before the deal to dilute the shares, which means that shareholders will receive less profit per share under the same conditions. How are we, shareholders, protected in this regard, perhaps by some deadlines before the general transaction and by the law prohibiting issuance before the transaction? How can this be further taken into account in the Constitution? To answer this question, we need to look a bit deeper at all these issues, including the so-called emissions, because emissions never occur for no reason. I've given plenty examples previously just like that. For instance, interesting projects starting from companies like WhatsApp, Snapchat, Google, Amazon, and others, if you look at all these major companies and their investment histories, sometimes there were dozens of rounds of investment. This means that as the project develops, it simply requires more capital, but the fact remains. I specifically brought up this picture of a somewhat unfinished house depicted on the slide. Now here is the question. When you are building a house, you planned $1 million in some currency to develop and invest into it. You spent it, and the house still stands on that $1 million, and it seems almost finished. But a little bit is still missing to complete it so that it can be lived in. It's about 90% done, but you can't live there yet because about 10% remains unfinished. For instance, the electricity hasn't been connected, the water isn't hooked up, and so on. That's the issue. This is when an additional emission is necessary. Will you be ready to invest those additional 10% to move into a finished house, or will you say, no, absolutely not, I will not pay another penny more and will live in the house as it stands today? Of course, an additional investment will be made. It's not about good or bad intentions, founders, business organization, and so forth. Instead, it's a matter of rationality. Do we still need more funds to successfully complete the project? The emission is carried out solely to bring the project to the required condition. Recently, there has been discussion that our competitive advantage should be the implementation of Web3 technology. Is any work being done in this direction, as the developers are not saying anything about this lately? Or are all the efforts focused on mini-apps and improving the platform architecture? If so, are there any plans to revisit the issue, and when, given that Web 4 is already on the horizon? This is really an important question. We seriously discussed Web 3 and prepared for it, and this spring we started working on its implementation as well. Like any company does in business, we truly tested the hypotheses of whether Web 3 would be in demand if it existed. We devoted our efforts to development, and we implemented the project in May of this year as a test phase to test the interest. But in June and July of this year, we were able to obtain the statistics on the level of interest involved. Looking at the numbers, over 1% of our users engaged with it, but the rest of users were not interested in the project. We realized that if the audience today is not interested in Web 3, then this project isn't something we will aim for at this given moment. So yes, we have now paused it and devoted our efforts where the greatest impact lies instead: building our PayGem wallet and developing the platform to benefit us more. And we will return to this issue later, as there are many aspects to pursue, about 25 of them or even more. As in business, we proceed by testing hypotheses, and this was just yet another hypothesis to test. Is it possible to provide documentary evidence of the cost of the license sold? We would like to receive this information for future sales with documentary evidence. The answer is clear. Yes, this can be obtained if the other party involved in our transaction permits it. The non-disclosure agreement clearly states what both parties may or may not disclose about a deal, including the names of the companies involved, contract details, and so forth. When an NDA is executed and the other party suddenly finds this data or parts of it publicly available, very strict penalties apply. Second, and most likely, it will definitely lead to contract termination. Thirdly, it involves a loss of reputation in the market. And unfortunately, as we announced before, with the very first license, we cannot even disclose the country involved with it. We also cannot reveal the company or the deal amount. When is the implementation of fintech and mini apps in our application planned for? What is the percentage of readiness for each of them? As the head of our B2C direction has already answered this question earlier, as we discussed, there are urgent tasks involving onboarding a large number of new users during the transition to a new platform for audio, video, calls, and others, enabling tens of millions of users worldwide to access the service simultaneously, and so forth. These urgent tasks took up our team's strength today, but these tasks are supposed to be resolved in November. And after that, the teams, with full strength, will move forward with mini apps and PayGem. Will it be possible to transfer my shares to my husband when selling Gem Space? Will it be possible to transfer funds between the spouses' wallets after the sale? Shares cannot be transferred. With publicly traded companies, shares can be sold to another individual, but not transferred. The shares of our fund are not publicly traded and available. And regarding the transfer of money between spouses' wallets or between sales transactions, firstly, we are a non-financial organization and cannot transfer money between individuals. Secondly, each shareholder receives income from their shares, and once they have received it, they can transfer their funds to their spouse, children, parents, grandparents, or any charitable foundation at their sole determination. Whereas at this point, we would like to thank you for your attention thus far and for many of the questions that you've submitted. In other exciting news, based on previous requests, we specifically expedited this work and thus published our gem space in the Russian App Store, the RU Store. So please feel free to tell everyone you know that it can be downloaded through RU Store as well, as it is also now officially approved, so kindly go ahead. In other news, kindly be advised on the schedule of the following few conferences for the following few weeks. Shall you have any questions for the board of directors, the team of the developers, and their marketing teams as well, kindly submit them in a timely manner. And now let's get to the current promotions, where we do have some good news. The bonus package of shares promotion is still valid until November 3rd for you to enjoy. A quick reminder of the Breakthrough Plan of the Month promotion, which is also valid only until November 3rd in its current state, as after November 3rd, there will be changes implemented to this promotion. Be advised that the Breakthrough Plan of the Month promotion is very simple. With each package purchase of the same kind, the number of complimentary packages you receive increases, as you can see depicted in this table. However, these terms and conditions are only valid until November 3rd. Thus, please note the changes that will be implemented to this promotion starting November 4th, depicted here and on our website accordingly. And on this major note, we would like to thank you for your time today, as we continue our dedicated efforts towards shared success, specifically in light of the growing recognition and tangible progress of our B2C, B2B, and B2G solutions. So until we meet next time.